Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to A Kind of Meadow. I'm your host, Rhiannon Vaughn, and I'm so glad you're joining us today. Whether you're a returning listener or just tuning in for the first time, thank you so much for being here. In this episode, we continue our journey with the incredible Dr. Alannah Mack. If you haven't met her yet, Dr. Mack is a trailblazer in HealthTech, currently a Biodesign Fellow at UCLA and both an MD and MBA from Howard University. She's dedicated to revolutionizing healthcare, enhancing patient outcomes, and creating a more sustainable system for doctors and patients alike. We're thrilled to dive deeper into her world today. Last time, we focused on a powerful healing session centered around feminine energy, procrastination, self-sabotage, and forgiveness. If you missed it, I highly recommend going back to A Kind of Next Level with Alannah Mack, Part 1. In that episode, we explored how these themes are deeply interconnected and how embracing our feminine energy, our intuition, creativity, receptivity, and kind of just dancing in circles and not doing nothing, but enjoying the pleasures of life for the sake of pleasure. How that can dissolve procrastination and self-sabotage, turning them into opportunities for growth and alignment. Today, we're shifting gears to have a heartfelt conversation with Dr. Mack about her personal and professional journey. We'll discuss the trauma of medical school, the guilt and conflict she's felt in balancing work and pleasure, and how she's navigated these challenges. We'll also explore the fascinating ways she's used self-hypnosis to strengthen her decisiveness and the synchronicities she's experienced in her life, how things seem to align perfectly even when she's not pushing herself to check all the boxes. We also touch on the delicate dance between productivity and pleasure and the importance of releasing guilt associated with choosing joy over constant progress. So get cozy, open your heart, and let's dive into this inspiring conversation with Dr. Alannah Mack. Okay, well, let's dive into the healing. I'd love to hear your first thoughts, first impressions.
I think my first impression started at the point where we were on top of the cliff and I was like, hey, the path stopped, fix this. I think that really represents how I used to feel immediately after graduating from medical school and not knowing what I was going to do. And I really did feel like I had forced my way to graduation. Like it wasn't an easy journey. And then once I got there, I'm like, well, I'm not continuing on this path. I'm not doing residency. And it was a feeling of like, well, what did I do all that for? Like, was that a waste of time? And I don't feel like that anymore. Like now I can see I needed to go to medical school so that I can be in the position that I'm in now, innovating within the healthcare space. I needed that knowledge, but immediately afterwards, there was a feeling of just frustration and like, what did I do all of that for?
Oh, and I feel like I relate to that feeling too, just because it happens a lot in life, or it feels like it's happened a lot in my life. Like even moving to a place that's new, I always feel like I start back at the bottom of something. Everything falls away and I'm like starting from scratch. And my therapist has always said, you're not starting from zero. You like go back down, but you're at 100 feet elevation instead of below sea level. Or then the next time you're at like 600 above sea level. Yeah, there's these moments in life where you're headed in a direction and then it's just the end of that phase of anything. Even like when a restaurant changes a recipe or, I feel like I've had that frustration in that like, no, I loved egg fried rice for breakfast or whatever. Like it's
my favorite thing.
Yeah, it's the end of an era. Yeah, these moments can show up in like small ways and big ways. So yeah, it's interesting to see that it feels like the end of the road, but really it's time for a different kind of path.
Time for a different path. Yeah, for sure.
And then what was really specific was that one path was stone and one path was air or, like invisible. Do you resonate with that at all?
Yeah, for sure. Because like I mentioned, going into medicine, that path is definitely set. There is a traditional pathway. I could for sure see that. And I was definitely using my machete and like making that path visible for myself because it was just a tough time getting to the finish line of graduation. And now I'm on this path that no one that I know has been on. I have no guides who have said or been able to say like, I also went through medical school and decided not to do residency. And now I'm starting a startup. Or even in my biodesign fellowship, there's only like 8 people in our cohort total. There's just like, it's a very small, I don't know, tribe that I'm a part of. And so it's hard to see the pathway because there's no one who's done this before me that I know of.
Yeah. And I'm sure that with such a small pool of people that you would all have different ways of approaching what you're doing in the biodesign world too. Like it's not even the same path for the 8 of you.
Yeah, no, it's not. One, because we're not all physicians, but even within the physicians, there are some who want to innovate but also still practice medicine traditionally. Some are going back to their fellowship or to residency after this, or going back to practice medicine traditionally after this. And maybe they'll never use the knowledge that they gain from this fellowship for innovation. It's just a pit stop in their education. But for me, it's like, this is everything. I am an innovator in healthcare. This is all I can do.
Oh, that's fun. When you had set your topic, you had talked about stepping more into feminine energy and then getting out of self-sabotage and procrastination and more into feminine energy.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. This is a more recent journey that I've been on, like the feminine healing. But up until this point, I've definitely been in masculine energy, which has been, I guess, required for me to accomplish the things that I've been able to accomplish. And a lot of the things that I've accomplished, like getting through medical school, I feel like were very forced. Like it was by force that it happened and by my will that I made sure those things happened and I accomplished my goals. But now I'm trying to like not be in that energy and more receive instead of, I don't know. The only word I can think of is like force and push and will things into happening. Like, let me just see what comes to me without me doing anything.
Yeah, I feel like it's exhausting. I feel like I was in very masculine energy for most of my life. And then I had children, and having children forced me into a place where like, oh, well, I don't have a job right now. All I'm doing is mothering. So it feels like I'm just sitting here doing nothing and no goals because my goals get interrupted. It's so hard to be in that space because it feels like there's nowhere where that's celebrated unless you're living like a pure life of leisure.
Which would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Dream life.
Yeah. But yeah, there's like not a lot of spaces where it's celebrated to just, I remember going into spaces and having the conversation where people would be like, oh, so what do you do? And to say nothing, the drop in people's faces because it's not that I was doing nothing. There was still stuff that's happening, but it's hard to explain. I don't know. I felt like I was forced into my feminine energy in a way that I didn't respect it yet either, because it was suddenly I'm doing nothing, but I have all this space to like meditate or have hobbies or find out who I am based on nothing, like not my accomplishments, but just by who I am without all of that.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And I felt really connected to it, but then the external, there's not like the validation for being like, oh, you love Pilates, good for you. Or, you know,
yeah, that's super interesting. But that's definitely true. My mom was a stay-at-home mom my whole life. So I guess I've always kind of had that as an example. Just stay home and bake cookies and go to the gym and talk to your friends on the phone. That's fine to just do that. And then for me, it's like, but that's not allowed for you. Yeah. You need to go to school and become a doctor and do all the things. And I think I just also realized I don't like how other people perceive who I am because of the masculine energy that I give off. And I think it makes them think, oh, she's strong. She can handle that. She can protect herself. I don't have to intervene. Specifically, like the men in my life, I feel like they kind of take steps back when I'm placed in situations where like maybe a man should fight for my honor, but they're like, oh, well, Alannah can handle herself. Like, let her figure it out. Yeah, I can, but I don't want to.
Yeah, it creates imbalance to always have to be in that space.
Yeah.
It's not fun to always be in one. side or the other. It's nice to have balance, but you need to be able to not do to receive the the defense or whatever.
Yeah. I think right now, since I've been on the other side of the spectrum, like the masculine side of the spectrum for so long, it's like a hard 180 to the feminine side for me at this point.
Oh, do you feel like you're already embodying that, or are you finding your way?
I'm finding my way, but I'm very close. If I'm not there, I'm very, very close to being there. And probably this healing helped me get to that last like few percentages to the 180.
Well, what was really interesting about the way that feminine energy showed up was as Casper, the friendly ghost. Do you have any connection to that character?
Not really.
Oh, it's so funny. Maybe it was...
I've seen the movie.
Yeah. I wonder if it's just because Casper's kind of androgynous, but also like ghosts can be scary and Casper's the example of a ghost that's not scary. But yeah, it was interesting to see Casper as an example of where all he could do was receive. Yeah. Because he couldn't force anything. Things would go through him. And when we first see Casper, it's in this really vulnerable, I can't defend myself. I have nothing to protect me. Did that bring up anything?
I think I've made a conscious decision to move to my feminine side. And I think in making that decision, at first there was some fear like, well, I've been protecting myself this whole time. So if I put my guard down, what's going to happen? Like, things are just going to attack me, destroy me. If I don't have my defenses and I choose not to, if I decide I'm not picking up these weapons again, like I'm not going to defend myself in the same way I used to, what's going to happen?
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Are you able to make a choice and stick to it like that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's great.
One thing that I say is it's not my task. So I'll say that to myself, like, well, that's not my task.
Oh, I love that. That's great. And it seemed like the path to becoming this fully receiving feminine, right? Everything comes to you. You literally can't go to it. Everything comes to you. Because of that, nothing can latch on to you. Like nothing can hurt you. It felt like the way to that was through forgiveness. This is the first time that I've seen the angle of forgiveness being less about that moment in time and more specifically about the stories that are created because of that moment in time. Did that part make sense?
That part I've had to think about the most. I don't know. I do think my forgiveness, I'll agree, it doesn't have to do with like a moment in time. It has to do with like how you were saying when things happen, you go back and like investigate and figure out why did this happen? I've been kind of doing a little bit of that, which isn't typical of me, to be honest. And I've come to the conclusion it's not like a moment in time. It's like multiple moments in time together that I'm trying to forgive. So I don't know. And I also don't know. I feel like I've released a lot of the stories that I was telling myself, particularly when it comes to medical school and like feeling like I wasted my time or feeling like I did that to myself, like put myself in that situation because no one told me to apply to medical school. I made that decision. I decided to stay in school even though I hated it. And it actually took a toll on my body, both physically and mentally. Like when I graduated from school, I was just in a super, super rough place in both sense. And I'm like, well, you did that to yourself.
Oh, no.
It's your fault.
That's a hard one. Like that story is really hard. I do that too. And I think it's hard for me to get over radical personal responsibility where it's almost like it becomes fully around the circle where it's like a form of punishment again.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like the more I tell myself that story, like, well, you decided to do this, then it makes me lose trust in my ability to choose things.
Yeah, it's really hard. It was like a life coach / business coach, and she recommended I do the radical forgiveness worksheet on my medical school experience, which I haven't done yet. But it's definitely something that's like, it's really hard to explain my experience and my relationship with medicine. It's
No,
really
yeah.
weird.
I mean, it's interesting to have to do the worksheet with like the radical forgiveness worksheet is great. I've used them before, but whenever I've done it with people, like a specific person or a specific event that happened with a person. And then the whole point of it is you get back to, oh, well, this was good for me because I'm grateful for this experience because we were just dancing together and doing this thing. And so the idea of doing it with the whole of medical school is also like an interesting.
Right. And it's an extended time in my life. That was 5 years. And a lot happened during that time. I describe my medical school years as like terrorism. Like I was bullied in medical school, not even just by my peers, but like by doctors, residents. I decided to do an MBA in the middle. And so that really othered me because you go to medical school to be a doctor. Why are you interested in business? And then once I came back to do my rotation, it was like I was super different from everyone else because I had other interests and I was pursuing other things, and that wasn't encouraged. And so that made things more challenging once I came back. And then you're also in this environment that's like, it just is all encompassing. Like it's not normal school. You're in the hospital doing 24-hour shifts, basically having sleepover parties with your medical student friends in the call rooms because you're in the hospital all day, all night. You still have to study and do other things. It's just like a really weird time.
Oh, yeah, I could never. Yeah.
It's hard to describe. Like you don't hang out with people that much. Like you would never say like, oh yeah, we were all in the hospital for 72 hours.
Yeah. It's not Grey's Anatomy. Except for the trauma part, the fact that there's like unending trauma being enacted on these doctors.
Yeah. And then also this was during COVID too. Oh. So we're all doing all that with like tons of PPE and N95 and a mask on and just weird time.
Oh, it's almost like war PTSD.
Probably. That's why I describe it as terrorism. That time in my life, like I legitimately have PTSD from it.
Well, I'm sorry. That sounds terrifying and awful. And I'm glad that you found the courage to just follow the next step instead of making that path forcing that path to be the right one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. And I was kind of forced to make the decision because of the state of my health at the time that I graduated from medical school. Like I had to have surgery. I could have potentially had multiple surgeries. My mental health wasn't that great. I was not able. I could have continued, but it was like, this is taking a toll on my body. I have to stop.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I mean, it sounds like, too, you said that even like doing something as simple as getting an MBA othered you. So it sounds like medical school is very conformist, or, you know, like it's, you all have to think the same way, be the same way, take pride in the same things. Like it sounds like such a, being other in a space is so hard because it messes with belonging. And I feel like belonging messes with our ability to like take pride in our identity or just be, like feel like it's okay to just be yourself too. Do you feel like you've found belonging since leaving that space?
To some extent, yeah. I'm definitely living my dream life now, and I feel like I found my tribe now that I'm in LA, now that I'm doing the Biodesign Fellowship. Like there's more people like me, but it's also interesting when it comes to me communicating what I'm doing presently to people at my medical school, whether it's past professors or old friends. I can't do that for some reason.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So it's still really, I'm sure they're like, what happened to Alannah? We haven't heard from her. It's like I'm in stealth mode.
Oh, that's so funny because you're also winning awards that come with checks and fellowships. And yeah, you're killing it in your space. And still it feels like stealth mode.
It's super stealth. Yeah. No one from that space or that time in my life is connected with me on LinkedIn. So they don't see it. They don't know what I'm doing. They just know that I don't know, fell off the face of the earth. Like they don't have any idea. And then I remember once a professor, a doctor who actually wrote a letter of recommendation for me for my MBA program when I was applying. He reached out to me on LinkedIn and was like, hey, so glad I wrote that letter of recommendation for you. Love to catch up and see what you're doing. I could not ever call. Like he gave me his phone number and I never called.
Oh, really?
Because I just had too much, it was anxiety. I started to feel so anxious, the idea of talking to someone from that time in my life about what I'm doing now.
Oh, interesting.
So I think when I really get over my med school trauma, I'll be able to explain and share what I'm working on with people from that time in my life and like not feel any type of way about it, but I'm not there yet.
Oh yeah, that's fair. I mean, if it was during the pandemic, that's still pretty, I feel like all of us are still recovering from pandemic trauma, and it was nowhere near being inside of the hospital at that time. It's a very confusing time warp thing too, where that's more than fair. Okay, so this is not the first healing that we've done. Have you, in past healings, also screamed? You've had to like yell to release stuff?
Yeah, the first healing, I think you said I was wailing.
Oh, interesting.
Like in the first one we ever did, I was wailing. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Are you a person who emotes loudly in your daily life?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
But I just know the type of energy I'm holding around life experience, specifically in medical school. And I were ever given the opportunity to do so, I probably would.
You know what I started doing? So I'm having a lot of anxiety this year, just diagnosed with OCD yesterday. And my dad got diagnosed with cancer, and it's been like he died not too long, like 6 months later.
I'm sorry to hear about that. Yeah.
I've had a lot of fear of death that's been coming up, and I have so much fear and so much, the way that stress and trauma can like change our bodies. So suddenly I'm walking around like this, and then suddenly like, oh, my back really does hurt, but it's because I'm walking around like this. And, like it's a whole spiral of things that, it's like so in our body that I realize I'm so terrified. I'm so scared of everything all the time right now in this phase of my life that I just started screaming in my car. Horror film screaming.
Okay.
And it's great. I highly recommend, because there's so much fear. I needed that kind of scream to get it out of me. I still have to do it. It's one of those things where people don't necessarily hear it, especially if you're on the freeway or something, unless you're in traffic. It's the perfect place to do it. But even the rage screaming sometimes is very nice inside of a car.
Well, I spend a lot of time in my car driving to Westwood, so I'm sure I can find some time to release some sounds.
Yeah. Highly recommend it. What was interesting though, and I had never thought about this, was how you would scream, and then because of the scream, the echo would come back, and it was guidance from your angels in this way of letting the frustration by voicing it creates its own divine inspiration or innovation or whatever. Did that bring up anything for you when you listened to it?
I think that part kind of reminded me of like, even though I hated all of medical school and it was a horrible time, PTSD and all this stuff affected my body in the worst ways, I never felt like I wasn't supposed to be there. Like I always felt like I was on the right path and I needed to be there. And so I felt like that was kind of like the guidance. Like, even though it was really frustrating, it's still encouraging. Like something underlying was still encouraging me to like stay the course, stay on the path. You're supposed to be doing this. Things will get revealed later. When this is all over, you'll be able to look back and be like, okay, this is why I had to do life in this way. Currently, things don't make sense. At the time, things really didn't make sense. But I do think that there'll be a time where I'll be able to look back and like be like, oh, okay, this all makes sense now.
Oh, that's amazing. That's like a really nice amount of trust in the process.
Yeah, I'm trusting the universe for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So then the big part of the healing felt like it was in the fairy realm. These fairies showed up.
Yeah, the funny part about that was maybe this weekend, maybe on Friday or something, I was online looking at some outfits and I saw this one kind of like a green top and green skirt, and it was frilly thing on the side and it had some hanging down parts on the skirt. And I was like, this is really cute, but also I could wear this as Tinkerbell for Halloween.
Oh, oh my God.
I was like, maybe I'll get this outfit and it'll be like a 2-for-1. I'll be able to wear it, but then also I'll wear it again for Halloween and I'll be a Tinkerbell.
Oh my God. That's so specific.
Very.
Yeah.
So when I heard that part, I'm like, oh, wow. Now I really need to get the outfit.
Yes. It's so funny. I loved that it did really feel like a makeover sequence in a rom-com, like with music.
Those are my favorite scenes.
Yeah, trying on.
Right. Multiple outfits, trying on different things, coming out of the dressing room.
The reveal at the mirrors, that whole thing. It was very fun. That's amazing. Do you have any connection with fairy energy?
No.
It's interesting because I feel like there's all different kinds of elementals and different people have different elementals that they tend to be attracted to. And so, yeah, the idea of it almost felt like you were picked by the fairies, like, here, let me show you the way. In their femininity, there is something really playful and cheeky about the way that even the way that Tinkerbell always has her butt out, or, there's something really fun about the femininity that they bring to a space.
Yeah. I don't know. For some reason, fairies also remind me of hummingbirds. And so I have had like a connection to hummingbirds since I moved to California. I always see hummingbirds around our neighborhood and I take note of them, how they move, and they're just really small and cute and they go to the different flowers.
Yeah. There is something about, I was just having a conversation yesterday with a friend where she said that, I don't remember who it is, maybe it was Elizabeth Gilbert, said that like some people are like woodpeckers where they have one focused thing and they just work at it all day, every day and keep their head down and just keep pecking away. And then some people are like hummingbirds where they flit from this flower to this flower and get a little something from here and a little something from there. And it's the way that they're meant to experience life and their creativity.
I'm definitely a hummingbird.
How fun.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, and I think that there are a lot of people who are hummingbirds, but that's another one of those things that in society is not valued. It's kind of like pick a box, pick a lane, pick a thing, and then stick it out forever. Even in the tech space, part of where I'm taking a step back is because all of a sudden I'm not being creative anymore. I built this so that I could be more creative to help me with my own creative process. But suddenly it's like, here's a formula for marketing and here's how you do sales and pick a lane and just focus on that, drive this idea forward until you make your first million or whatever, instead of being able to flit about.
Yeah. I don't know. Whenever I think about like my life or like career, even at a younger age, I always thought of it as, what is Alannah at 30 doing? What is Alannah at 35 doing? What is Alannah at 45 doing? And she was never doing the same thing. It wasn't like, I'm going to have this one career my whole life. It's like, well, maybe when I'm in my 50s, I'll be a politician or something. And then maybe once I'm in my 60s, I'll become an angel investor or something. It was just like, I always thought about things in stages and not like, I'm going to become a doctor and I'm going to do that my whole entire life and it's going to be great. The thought of that actually sounds horrible.
Oh yeah. No, that does like definitively woodpecker. Yeah. Because it's even like, not even just like, I'll be a doctor and flit about. You have to pick a specialty or a focus and then do that, or else you're not an expert.
Yeah, right. And once you choose that specialty, it's not like you can change later without going through starting over from the beginning and doing residency over. You can't be like, I'm going to be a dermatologist and then now I want to be a cardiologist. No, that's not how it works.
And I get it, because if I needed like triple bypass or something and it was the guy who gave me Botox or, like, I'd be like, wait a minute.
But the interesting thing is other types of healthcare providers like physician assistants and nurse practitioners, they do have that type of flexibility. You can be a dermatology PA and then apply to a job in emergency department. And I don't know how the process works exactly, but get on the job training and now you're this emergency department physician assistant and you're working almost, very close to the capacity of a doctor in a lot of cases. So it's very interesting that doctors don't get the same flexibility.
Interesting. I am a little bit curious also if you want to talk about it, but you had mentioned that you feel like you're experiencing a lot of procrastination and self-sabotage with your startup.
Big time.
What's going on?
I'm just not working on it, to be honest. I know that there's things that I need to do. I'll wake up and make a to-do list. And then I'll have that same to-do list for 3 weeks. Nothing's been checked off. I don't know. I just can't force myself to like do the stuff. Even very, very small, easy things like check your email.
Oh,
Like, nope, not checking my email today.
Oh, interesting. And why does it feel like procrastination?
Just because I guess if procrastination is doing something within a time period or like within an expected amount of time. Once I create my to-do list for the day, I'm expecting to do it that day. And then I'll procrastinate to the last minute. So if I'm planning to apply to a program, it's very easy to do the application today, but if it's due on Friday at midnight, it's not even like I'm going to wait until Friday morning. Like I'm waiting until Friday at 11 p.m. to submit the application. 11:59 submitting the application. Why am I doing that?
You know, what's interesting here is like having a to-do list and running a startup is like there's something really focused and driven and kind of forging a path, that energy. And so it's almost like what's at odds here is that drive, that masculine energy of forging the path, and this new stepping into the feminine energy and kind of really enjoying it and celebrating it and having a good time now that you're in California and just seeing what's happening without doing anything in this new place that you're in. And the issue is not the procrastination or the self-sabotage. The issue is that these two energies are at odds and almost can't coexist in the way that they need to at this time, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm definitely in a transitional period. I think there was a time, especially when I first started my startup until now, like the last year-ish, last half of the year, I was very like driven, doing my tasks, applying to these programs. I'm trying to get traction. I'm trying to do all the things, networking, going to events, meeting people, talking to people, working on my stuff. And then there was a moment where I just like kind of stopped doing it all because I was just trying to figure things out.
Oh, yeah.
And then after that moment of stopping doing it all, I just like never picked it back up. Even though things are still happening, like I'm not doing anything, which is weird.
That's interesting because in a way, it felt like in the healing that's almost what the not doing anything, it allows space for the next step. And the part that I'm thinking about is the dancing for dancing's sake, creating for creation's sake. And in a way, like where the masculine energy would be like, I have a goal and I'm going to get to the top of the mountain. And it's so connected to time in this really linear way that the feminine energy, like dancing for the sake of dancing, like I could be doing this for 2 hours. I could be doing it for 2 minutes and it doesn't matter. Like I'm just going to circle around. Dancing in circles was the thing. And to me, dancing in circles sounds like not only frivolous, but it sounds like, oh, you're messing up because you're spinning around in circles around this thing.
Right.
Instead of like, just get to the fucking point or whatever. And so it's almost like the freedom is in this dancing in circles and doing it for the sake of doing that in a world where doing that is weird. Like, I don't know how equivalent, but the way that it's showing up right now is this idea that you getting an MBA while you're in medical school, the way that people saw that as weird, where it's a perfectly acceptable thing and probably an admirable thing to do and a really smart thing to do because not everyone else is doing it. It becomes, oh, wow, you're different. Even the idea of like having a company and then being like, I'm just going to see what happens this month. People are like, oh, how can I trust you with an investment? And it's like, it still exists. It's still there. I don't know. There is always this rush to do things. This is the other thing where I feel with my startup, it exists. It's software. I can use it now. You can use it now. Like anyone can use it now. So there's no rush, but I still feel the ping of, oh, maybe I should be making a social media post. Maybe I should be reaching out to these people. Maybe I should be, it's not inspired. Like it doesn't feel inspired. It feels forced. I spent last year doing all of these forced things. And at the end of the year, okay, well, I had some movement or momentum or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's not fun. Like, it doesn't feel like pleasure. It doesn't feel joyful. That's like a burnout city to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
I wish we lived in a world where we could just pick things up when it feels good to pick it up. And I understand sometimes you have to work through resistance. It's a very different thing than feeling, well, it's a day, so let me create a to-do list just to have a to-do list because that's what I'm supposed to do.
Right. This is what I have to do. Yeah. My current daily schedule is like, I wake up, do some meditation, walk my dog. I started taking pole dancing classes, so maybe I'll go to a few pole dancing classes. And then I come home and I see how I feel, and maybe I'll take a nap. And then when I wake up from my nap, I'll see how I feel. And then that's usually when it's like, okay, Alannah, you've not wasted the whole day, but like, you've had your fun. Let's sit down and get serious. Make your list and let's check something off.
All of that sounds like serious business though. Yeah.
No, it's great. It's great for my mental health, my well-being. I feel wonderful. And the other thing is things are still happening. I still take care of the things that I need to take care of. But I guess it's the timing part that you were talking about. Can things be accelerated? Probably. Can things be moving faster? Definitely. But that would get in the way of me taking my pole dancing class or meditating in the morning or walking my dog. I'm prioritizing those things over the to-do list for right now.
Yeah. You know, I started working as a teenager right away, full time. And so I spent a lot of my young life in survival mode. And then I finally was like, let me just take a break. I have savings. I can do it. And being in that in-between space, I felt so guilty, like I should be focusing on some career or, doing that. But technically, I never had the space to relax the way that other people did because of the way that life was. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those weird things where it's so lovely that you get to relax because you still have the trauma of medical school where you spend more hours per day working than most people would in like a year,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Even with that being true, it's still hard to reconcile when it's a pendulum. You know what I mean? Like, the pendulum shift feels really different than being in the middle, holding both things simultaneously. Like, I'm going to be busy and slow in half of the day instead of it being like, okay, here's 5 years of doing it this way. And let me spend.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me see what the other side feels like. Yeah, that is interesting. I had to resist the med school side of the pendulum. I was still there for a long time. Like, just do as much as possible, have a bunch of stuff on your resume, do things just for the sake of doing them and having them on your resume type of thing. How about I don't do that?
Yeah, I love it. And I wish that there were more people who would invest in people who were more like, I'm going to do it when I feel it. Because it'll be more bang for the buck anyway, because it's intentional in a way that's different. Yeah.
It's intentional. Yeah, that's true. I think luckily, one of the benefits of going through medical school and being a doctor is I can kind of finesse that conversation a little bit, even though, the biodesign year that I'm doing right now, it's a 1-year fellowship and I have been working on stuff, but just if you're comparing this 1 year to like a 1 year of medical school, it's like I'm working 20% of my capacity of how I was in any one of the years of medical school. Like, it's just very different expectations.
Do you think that it's harder to own because it feels so easy?
What do you mean?
Like the waking up, meditating, walking your dog, taking some pole dancing classes. You're doing this while you have a fellowship. So it's not like you're even doing it without anything going on, I have spent years where I was doing those things without anything else going on. But
yeah, I'm doing this while I'm doing my fellowship, which I don't know. It's like I'm doing a lot, but I'm not doing a lot compared to the life that I lived before. Because even within the fellowship, I'm working on 2 innovation projects, and then I still have my own startup. We just got into an accelerator program. There's movement happening in all places, and I'm still working on stuff. But just like the capacity at which I'm working is not the 150% that I was giving from 2017 to 2022 when I was doing medical school. It's like 100% in this space.
Yeah.
To me feels like 25%.
Amazing. But I can also see,
which is good. But I also probably should not have been living at 150% for so long. Like that was unsustainable. And I shouldn't even be trying to compare this to that. Like really, this is what 100% feels like in real life. My 100% that I thought was 100% was not.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting because in the healing too, after forging the path for so long, the specific thing about yelling and getting the echoes back was that you could only hear the echoes if you paused, if you had quiet. It wasn't just go, go, go. And when you're constantly doing all the time, there is no space to hear things. Or, I spent a lot of times because last year was great. I mean, I loved a lot of it. And also at the end of the day, I was like, there's something just, I don't know if this is it for me. I felt like I was spinning my wheels and then I made $500 or something at the end of the year. Like it wasn't, there wasn't like a huge financial reward for doing all this work. There wasn't a lot going on. So I realized, in my most magical years where I got the most fun, the most pay, the most whatever, I had always been invited to things. I was responding to invitations. Even like the It Takes a Village was a response to an invitation. But in between getting those invitations, it feels like I'm not doing anything, but I can only get an invitation when I'm in between things, or else I can't accept it. Or I might miss the opportunity to meet someone who would invite me to a thing that then becomes this other thing. So there is something really magical about the pause and the quiet and the stillness in between bursts. And it feels like that feminine energy, that receiving energy, is that getting an invitation.
Yeah, that's so funny you say that because I've been doing a lot of visualizing and I really am just trying to like receive things. And a book that I was reading, I forgot what, but it was just talking about like, don't do anything. Even if, let's say if you wanted to build a new house and you may see a sign for like a construction company on your way home and you might think that's a sign, but you calling them to inquire about their services is you doing something. Don't do that. Somehow the incidents of events will just fall into place so that maybe somehow they'll reach out to you. Who knows? But you won't know until you just wait and let things happen. Let the scenes play out.
And that requires a lot of trust. Yeah. And that is hard as someone who was like a forger. Like it only happened because I made it happen. So yeah, at the end of last year, I was like, I have to trust things will show up and not just spend every day applying for things. Because that is even wasted. I can't receive invitations if I'm busy. Sorry, I got to put out my resume. I got to update my resume. I got to fill out this up. Like it takes so much time and energy that could have gone to something more fun.
Yeah. I take the same approach when it comes to fundraising. They're always like, I don't know, start building relationships now, do as many meetings as possible with as many investors, because for every, whatever they say, like 100 meeting, you might get not even one yes or something. Like,
oh yeah.
Like, I don't want to do that.
I know.
Like whoever wants to invest in me, just come to me.
Yeah. Especially as a woman in the space fundraising, it's like, that's a lot. I mean, I don't know. I also ran into the issue where I would meet people and I was like, can we just be friends instead? And I'm hoping that maybe one day that'll help me in some way. I'll throw a party. It'll be fine.
Right.
Yeah. Is there anything that we haven't talked about yet that you wanted to bring up related to the healing?
I don't think so. Let me think some more.
And I guess the question I would have is, what do you think you'll take away from the information in the healing or the imagery in the healing?
I think the biggest takeaway for me is just that, like, I'm on the right path. Keep going. Don't be afraid to step on the steps to going to heaven with space in between. Like, that might seem scary, but it's taking you somewhere. It's going to take me to where I want to be. I'm just going to keep working on it.
Oh, I love that. What's interesting, even going back to just the thing that we were just talking about, the difference between 150% and something that feels like 25%. The steps, because there was no jungle around them, they were just easy, like one foot in front of the other and you're there kind of thing. It was so easy and airy because they're in the air too.
Mm-hmm. Love that.
What about the thing about heaven on earth and the fear? Was there any connection?
the kind of connection, I don't know what movie this was from, but this was like, somehow I was shown this clip on YouTube and it was this actress. I don't remember her name. So this is not going to be a good story. But she was playing a mother, and then her son came into the house. And I guess the son was like getting involved with maybe some gang activity or things that she wasn't okay with. And the son was like, I'm not going to wait to die to see heaven. Like, I'm getting my heaven here on earth. I was like, that's kind of an interesting thing to say. Not him doing the gang activity and everything.
Yeah.
But like
his idea of heaven was, yeah.
Or just, his idea of heaven was like, I don't know, having money so that he can live the type of life that he wanted to live here, instead of waiting till later to try to, I don't know, live your best life. I really do feel like I'm living my best life now, but my best life can be better. More so just like with me accomplishing the goals that I have, having success in whatever way my startup will be successful, or just having success after doing this kind of non-traditional path and journey. I think that would be heaven for me. Or like, I do think I have an idea of what that looks like.
Oh, fun. I like that it's also about, like, it's not just about everything being good or whatever, but that you said that it's the way that you want to do it too. Things working out the way that you want to do it is also part of the heaven. I think that's like a really important point.
Yeah. So I don't know. After listening, I felt really excited. I feel like I always feel excited after a healing with you. I felt like it was very affirming, made me feel like I'm on the right path. Yeah.
And you have a Halloween costume.
And I have a Halloween costume that I need to order. I'm about to be Tinkerbell.
Yeah. That's funny. Now, when you do the healings, is there anything that you like to do to integrate the healing?
No. I don't even know what I would do to do that, or what that would even mean. So no.
Yeah, that's true. In this one, it was just kind of, when we've done work before, it felt a little more intense. Like there was like stuff being pulled out, and this one felt like it was just a lot of almost like dropping a towel. Like you're already naked and you're just dropping the towel to be fully let go and like step into the new thing. So there is something about ease.
I think since our last healing session, like I've gotten really into meditation, and like I've been really into wellness, mindfulness, been learning about the quantum field and all the possibilities of the now moment, and been trying to jump timelines and do all these different things in my spare time. Yeah. So I'm definitely like, I'm in a very different place, and I just have a different outlook on things and understanding of life in general, I think now.
Your interest in jumping timelines, I wonder if that's why the UFO showed up, about how like instead of moving through time linearly,
I think, yeah. I definitely have some
cool.
A part of my goals and reaching heaven. It's like there's a version of me right now who's already there. Let me just jump to her. If not in the 3D and in the physical, in the mind, and just think from that state today until my circumstances and surroundings start to catch up.
Oh, that's really cool. I love how decisive you are. Like it's a choice, or you know what I mean? Because that's true. It is just a choice. And so it's just being confident in that choice. It seems really like, of course it's going to happen for you, because
of course it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's already happened.
Yeah, it has. Yeah.
I'm already her.
Yeah.
Just my circumstances and the environment doesn't reflect yet, but it's coming.
I don't know. Your daily schedule sounds like heaven to me.
I mean, it is really nice. Somehow I need to figure out how to keep that schedule and have an income at the same time. Life of leisure.
I'm sure it can happen. It's not even that wild. There are plenty of people who are doing it,
I just have to figure that part out. But yeah, I'm just trying to think as her today because I am her now.
Yeah. And if there is only now, then it's just about getting to that. Like it's not some point in the future. This is like something that I've had shift for me recently too, is that manifestation is not about shifting to a point in the future. It's about calibrating to the now moment that I want to be in because it's already here. So
yeah,
radio
it's already
thing,
here
like,
at a certain frequency. And then once you can get yourself to that same frequency, now you and your goal or whatever you want to manifest are aligned. And so that's when it will be able to happen.
Yeah. You know, there's a part of me that wants you to be successful in tech and wants me to be successful in tech so that it's in a way of the moment that you have just fundraised stuff. People are like, how did you do it? How did you do it? You got to go meet 100 people so that one of them, no. I had a daily walk where I visualized myself and the person just showed up. Yeah. Yeah. The person just showed up. I bumped into them. And what do you know? They had $1 billion.
Right. Self-preservation and acceptance of whatever comes to you. I have had some very interesting synchronicities that encourage me to continue with my nothingness. Things still happen.
What do you know? Without forcing them, things just happen.
So that's why I have to remind myself, it's not my task.
Yeah, I love that. At the end of last year, I stumbled on this guy, Daryl Anka, who channels someone named Bashar.
Oh, interesting. Cool.
Do you know Bashar?
A little bit, yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm like fully, if he had a cult, I'm in. But, a lot of what Bashar talks about anyway, like the main thing is about following your excitement. And when you follow your excitement, then the synchronicities it just has to appear. And so I tried it last year. I was like, you know what? Today, I'm not going to work at my job. I'm not going to worry about money. I want to go walk the Beltline and have a glass of wine at a restaurant and just sit there and do nothing and not worry about not getting paid today. Let's just see what happens. And I got an email that we got a sale and I got a commission on the sale. And I was like, oh my God, it works. Like the money just came in, even though I refused to work that day.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I'm like a big fan of following your excitement. It's a lot harder. I mean, for me, it's easier said than done. And it's a conscious practice I have to do every day. Now I feel like I'm at a place where I'm getting really distracted by my thoughts because I'm in an OCD loop. But it's also a practice in just choosing to ignore the distracting thought. Like it's really easy to be like, oh, but then we'll run out of money and then we'll starve and then my children will be homeless and then blah, blah. It's still work. Getting in that mindset in the loop has created self-fulfilling prophecies almost. Whereas going and having a glass of wine and enjoying the sunshine and doing nothing today has brought positive reinforcement. So there's evidence that these synchronicities can happen, that the universe can work for you. And it's a thing where it's like a choice to be made.
It's a choice. I also have been doing a lot of self-hypnosis and I'm starting to take some classes in hypnosis. So I think that also helps me stay in the state of mind that I want to be in. First, it was hard to make the choice. So I was like, I'm going to hypnotize myself so that I make this choice. But now I can make the choice without it. Or maybe it's still the hypnosis triggers. I'm not sure.
Oh, that's great. I haven't tried hypnosis outside of hypnobabies when I gave birth.
Yeah, you were telling me about that.
Maybe I should. That sounds really helpful. That's good to know because
it's really powerful.
I mean, it sounds like it. It seems like it because you also seem really present and peaceful.
Very.
That's great.
Very. And then it also helps being in LA. Like I found this meditation group and we did a walking meditation in Santa Monica, like on the beach 2 weekends ago. You can find people who are into your thing and kind of build community on that. That's been cool. Yeah. But yeah, learning about Bashar and Rathma and been into Neville Goddard and Joe Dispenza and affirmations, meditation, quantum stuff. Metaphysical stuff, all the things.
Oh, fun. Sometimes when I get in my head about spending so much time doing that stuff, the thing that I discover, no matter what, even if, let's say that day that I choose to just go for a walk and not worry, just for today, everything's okay. I'm not going to worry about it. That at the end of the day, even if everything crashes and burns, the difference is in one scenario, I'm like, oh my God, everything's going to be ruined. And I'm like physically sick. And the other one, it's, oh, oops. but I had a good time until the end, you know?
Yeah. No, literally. This is how I knew that hypnosis was working for me. I hypnotize myself and then I'll say my affirmations. And the affirmations that I was saying at the time was like, everything is happening to my advantage. Something wonderful is happening for me now. My world is taking care of me. Things are going according to plan and will continue to do so with ease. So I actually had a flight to New York it was like Black Ambition demo day. I had to be there I didn't know that I was receiving any money, but I needed to be there. My flight was at 6 a.m. out of LAX and I woke up at 5:55 a.m. in Carson. And I called my mom and she's like, what? Oh my gosh, you need to get to the airport right now. Everybody's in a panic because I'm about to miss this huge opportunity because I missed my flight. And then I'm just calmly like, everything's happening to my advantage. I just calmly go take a shower, make my way to the airport. I'm not stressed at all. Everyone around me is like super stressed, texting me, calling me, are you going to make it here on time? Dinner starts at 7. You need to be here. Well, I'll get there when I get there. And everything worked out. Like somehow my flight was supposed to land at 6 p.m. and the dinner was at 7. We're going West Coast to East Coast. My flight got in almost 2 hours early.
Whoa.
So then I ended up getting there at 4 p.m. So I had enough time to like go to the hotel, change my clothes, make it to the dinner. Everything worked to my advantage.
Yeah.
And I wasn't stressed at all.
Yeah.
Like my heart rate literally did not raise at all.
That's amazing. Because if, let's say you did worry and you made it on the same flight at the same time, like everything happened exactly the same. The difference is in one of those situations, the flight would have been so uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. I was on the flight listening to music, having a great time, like not a care in the world. Even once I landed, I wasn't trying to rush to the train or anything. I'm strolling. I'll get to the hotel when I get there. Everything worked out. No one would have known that I was in that situation in the morning.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, this is great because it does feel like the visual of the next step it's the place where you're at, and being in this space is what's going to let the steps show up when they show up. You'll be able to see them because you're there. You're like already there energetically, vibrationally or whatever.
Yeah, vibrationally, I'm close. I'm just trying to be like, my ultimate goal is like in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I'm really trying to get to self-actualization, whatever that means, and just be in that state, the avatar state.
Oh, yeah. Well, then I think it's even less about healing self-sabotage and procrastination and more about it being okay for you to work at the pace that you're working. Like if you don't feel it that day, it's in divine timing. You'll be inspired when you're inspired. You're still getting invitations. Yeah. You're still getting, maybe respond to an email or, you know. No, just
I think at a minimum, I need to start checking my email because I'll not check my email for like weeks. And then one time I checked, it was like, please respond by tomorrow to accept your place into the accelerator program. And I was like, but also, everything happens to my advantage because if I would have checked my email a day later, I would have missed the opportunity, but I checked it in enough time.
Oh, so you checked it the day before?
Yeah.
So even going weeks was fine. Yeah, you're fine. You don't even need to check your email.
Like, please respond back by X date. Oh, when's that day? Oh, that's tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah. So it sounds like there's literally no self-sabotage. There is. Because even like the difference between procrastination and just not working on something is that procrastination is resistance. So if it's also like the difference between being uninspired by this and you're just following your excitement somewhere else, it's still creating synchronicity in all areas of your life. This is the other thing about listening to Bashar, and the whole thing is follow your excitement. Yeah. I think sometimes it's very American culture to think that following your excitement is, well, I'm a writer, so following my excitement is going to be writing every day. When no, some days it's going for a walk. Some days it's having a conversation with someone. Some days it's writing, and some days it's literally all of these things still feed the ultimate, our excitement is being ourselves at the end of the day. And so some days that thing represents being myself. And when the synchronicities happen, it blesses not just me, but all the things that I'm touching, because like it doesn't just bless my walk was beautiful, but because my walk was beautiful, this job that is not my excitement, I still got to benefit from that too.
Yeah, that's interesting. Also, now I'm thinking maybe the procrastination and self-sabotage, that's part of, a story I tell myself. If I don't do these things today, I'm procrastinating. I'm sabotaging myself if I don't do these things. That's not necessarily true.
Yeah, you can rewrite that story. And really, forgiveness.
Yeah.
Forgiveness is one of those things where every book or religion is like, forgive, forgive, forgive. And I was like, well, what does that mean?
What does that mean?
Yeah. So I went on a quest. I did the radical forgiveness worksheets. I went on a quest of like, what's the definition of forgiveness? Even like A Course in Miracles, the whole thing is about forgiveness is like the root of everything. I was like, well, they say forgiveness, but what does it mean? And so Oprah had a definition that I really loved. And it's just about like, it literally has nothing to do with anyone else. Sometimes I think I analyze things to death. I'm a Virgo. So I can like ruminate and mine moments for like, what's the lesson? What's the thing? So that I can take it. Part of it's protective or whatever, but part of it, I think there's a little part of me that thinks that if I analyze something to death, then I'll change that moment. But forgiveness is letting go of the hope that it'll change, that it'll have been different, and it can't because it's past, right? So I can make my future different in a way, but I still have to forgive that moment to ever get to a future moment. And
forgiveness is weird.
Yeah, but I do like this idea of it being about, it's just like letting go of it, like just dropping the weight, letting go of the baggage, dropping the moment. There's so many moments that I do let go of. And so why is it that I'm well, I know why. It's proofs so that I can pull them all out when it's time or form my argument. But yeah, it just creates so much weight. Yeah. And it's almost like they're proofs of a story that I don't necessarily like about who I am. They're this idea of, if I'm not working on my startup, have I failed at being it? Like, does this mean that I'm no longer running my startup? Am I resisting whatever? And so those are all stories where I guess I'm not meeting with anyone. I'm not going to the tech village anymore. Like, I'm not doing any of that. I don't even use LinkedIn very much. And so there's a part of me that feels like, am I sabotaging myself? And do I look flaky? And forgiveness would be like, I don't need to I forgive myself for doing these things, but it's just about letting go of all of these proofs of a story that I don't want to believe about. Like, I don't think it's true about myself, but I'm holding this evidence and supporting a case about a person that I'm actually not. That's what I think other people think of me, but it's not what I'm doing or who I am. Yeah. And so it's just letting them go.
Yeah. Still working on that part.
Oh no, easier said than done. Yeah.
Still have to work on that, but yeah.
I like that definition. To me, that feels better because it at least makes me feel less powerless, like gives me power over whether or not I'm ready to let go of that moment, instead of it being like waiting for an apology or whatever. It's me holding the balls.
Yeah. I have to think more about forgiveness. Just still working on it. For me, I feel like I'm past the point of wishing things didn't happen because I'm able to see how they like added to my journey. So I don't think about the past, but maybe it's something about the present that makes forgiveness hard for me. Like maybe, I don't know, it's more so in the present moment, not the past, not the event, not the people or the circumstances of the past, but like how that changed the circumstances of now, maybe.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Or it makes sense that it even like showed up as the stories, the definitions that exist in the present because of stuff that happened.
Yeah, it's the now that I have to work on.
Well, I mean, this is what I love about spirituality too, is that there's all of these great ideas and some things are really easy to hold on to. And it's really, it's just a choice. It's just a choice. But to make that choice is, I mean, part of dealing with OCD is that I have no control over my thoughts and it's a choice not to follow it. And it also feels like I'm going to die if I don't, or, like, but let me just check this. Let me just do this one thing.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's like a choice not to. And also I feel like I'm going to explode. Yeah. So yeah, it's like easier said than done,
So many things are easier said than done. So many things.
Wow. Wow, what an incredible conversation with Dr. Alannah Mack. I hope you found our discussion as insightful and inspiring as I did. From exploring the delicate balance between feminine and masculine energy to the powerful practice of self-hypnosis and the synchronicities that guide us, this episode was packed with wisdom and practical takeaways for your journey. I'm so grateful that Alannah even gave us the specific affirmations that she's used to create such miracles in her life. Before we wrap up, I want to remind you about the healing session. If you didn't get a chance to hear it, it's in the previous episode, A Kind of Next Level with Alannah Mack, Part 1. I highly recommend going back and experiencing that beautiful journey of healing focused on feminine energy, procrastination, and self-sabotage. It's a powerful session designed to help you also release old narratives and step into your next level. Okay, now it's time for our practical magic segment where we offer you a tangible exercise or ritual inspired by today's episode to help you integrate the healing and insights we've explored. Today, inspired by Alannah's own recommendation, I invite you to engage in a powerful practice of radical forgiveness using the worksheet created by Colin Tipping. You can find the official worksheet simply by Googling Radical Forgiveness Worksheet and the PDF will pop up. Or you can go to the website radicalforgiveness.org where there will be a button for free tools and you can download it directly from the source. I'll also put a link in the show notes so that you can access it for yourself. Now, this is not just any forgiveness exercise. It's a deep and guided process that can help you release lingering anger, resentment, or pain that might be holding you back from fully embracing the now moment and living your most authentic life. The Radical Forgiveness Worksheet is designed to guide you through a step-by-step process of acknowledging and releasing old emotional wounds. Here's a high-level look at what that means. So first, it's about telling the story. You'll begin by writing down the situation or person you need to forgive, and this helps clearly identify the source of your pain or resentment. Then it's time to feel your feelings. This worksheet encourages you to fully experience and honor your emotions, whether they're anger, sadness, or frustration. This step is about acknowledging your feelings without judgment, even if those feelings feel dark or ugly or not spiritual, especially then. It's important to know, oh, I hate this. It's okay. Hate it fully. Go there. Be dark, be deep. This is a space just for you, and no one ever has to see this. So let it be. We'll call it ugly, but it's what it is. And then only after you've felt your feelings as they are, once you feel like that's complete, next, you'll be guided to reframe the situation from a higher perspective. This involves taking an eagle-eye view. Let's see it from the outside, right? It's so hard to see things when we're inside of them. So this just kind of asks you to get up on a mountaintop, up in the clouds, and look down so that you can see it from a place that maybe this event has served a deeper purpose in your life, but we can't see that or get that information from inside of it. So it's going to help you move above to a higher perspective. And then from here, you'll let go of any narratives that keep you in a victim mindset. I always wince at the word victim because it is kind of overused and weaponized. I don't know about you, but it's really easy for me to latch on to some of these words that only aid in my self-flagellation. And so I fall into victim a lot. It's this thing that I have to fight against a lot. Like I'm a little baby. But that's because I'm regressing to my child self. So of course I feel helpless and like a victim. But if I can't acknowledge where I feel victimized, then I'll never be able to get into a more empowered place. So all of that to say, because of the word victim, sometimes it can be hard to work through the idea of being a victim. We especially in abuse or, a lot of these situations are really painful and hard. And so there's a part of us that wants to be validated. And I think this worksheet does help us validate the pain. And that's why feeling your feelings at the first step is so important, because it is ugly what we experience sometimes. It is awful and no one deserves to experience it. And also, once we allow ourselves to be the witness to our pain, Like our victim is just reaching out for someone to acknowledge and validate that that was awful and we didn't deserve it. We deserve better. We deserve love. And we do. We really do. And so when we say releasing the victim story, it's less about like stop being a victim and more about you get to decide I deserved better than that. I deserve love. And you can hold that version of yourself that feels like they need to be heard and validated. You get to witness. You don't have to wait for anyone else. Waiting for other people is the hardest part of forgiveness, like feeling like we have to wait for someone else because we have no control over whether or not someone will see us. But we do have control over being able to see ourselves, being able to witness ourselves and hold ourselves where it hurts. And so in this step where we talk about releasing the victim story, it's less about stop being a victim and more about witnessing the hurt and holding yourself and saying, oh, you did not deserve that. You deserve so much love. And here you can let go of any narratives that keep you in a victim mindset. This is a very powerful step in reclaiming your personal power and stepping into a more empowered state of being. And then finally, once you've gone through all of that, you'll consciously choose to forgive the person or situation, not as an act of condoning anything horrific, but as a way to free yourself from the emotional burden. Forgiveness is about acceptance. It's about it happened. It's not going to change. And so that's the worksheet. This is a kind of a big process. And so I recommend that you find a quiet space, choose a time and a place where you won't be interrupted, where you feel like you can express maybe ugly emotions. This could be in your home or a peaceful spot in nature or any space where you feel safe and grounded. Maybe set the mood, light a candle, play some soft music, burn some incense. Create a calming atmosphere where you can feel held. This is your sacred time, so make it feel special. And maybe even call in your angels, call in your guides to be there with you, to hold you as you go through this process. Now, you can download the worksheet, do it on a tablet. I don't know what people use these days. You can do it on your phone. You can print it out and write pen to paper, and then take your time working through the worksheet. As you move through each section, really allow yourself to fully feel and express any emotions that come up at any point in the process. Remember that this is a safe container for you to release what no longer serves you. After completing the worksheet, take a few moments to sit quietly and notice any shifts in your energy or mindset. You might feel lighter, more peaceful, or even empowered. I think it's important to really embrace the shift. You're doing the hard work of facing these moments, right? And then you can integrate the experience. Consider journaling or noting any insights or realizations that arose during the process. This reflection can help anchor the healing that you've just done. And remember, this isn't about condoning any actions or experiences that have hurt you. It's about freeing yourself from the emotional weight that they've carried in your life. By engaging in this ritual, you're making space for new positive energy to flow and support your journey. Okay, next week, we'll be back with a special group healing session just for you, focused on unrequited love. It's a big theme that I know I have experienced. I don't know about you, but definitely me. And I can't wait to share this healing with you. New episodes drop every Sunday, so make sure to subscribe, follow, and tune in to continue your journey of growth and personal healing with us. I hope you find permission to rest from this episode and that it opens the door to the next level as you journey forward on your path. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time on A Kind of Meadow with Rhiannon Vaughn. If you're ready to embark on your own healing journey, I'd love to work with you. You can schedule your personal session at rhiannonvaughn.com/healing. For those who prefer a solo adventure, dive into the Writing with Spirit Oracle deck, an online oracle deck inspired by the hero's journey. Get personalized guidance for just $3 a month at oracledeck.guru. And don't forget to use code WILDFLOWER for 10% off. Let's start this magical journey together.